On today's episode, Tough Mudder changes the 10-mile Tough Mudder to 2 laps of a 5-mile course, and everyone on the internet reacts calmly. Also, Jesi Stracham, the first person to earn their Tough Mudder Holy Grail in a wheelchair.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. Thank you for listening. My name is Will Hicks. Today on our show, Jesi Stracham. Jesi did her first World's Toughest Mudder last year, completing 20 miles in a wheelchair. She's also the first person, man or woman, to complete the Tough Mudder Holy Grail in a wheelchair. The Holy Grail is earned by doing a 10-mile tougher mudder, an 8-hour toughest mudder, and the 24-hour World's Toughest Mudder in the same year. Jesi was riding on the back of a motorcycle when a car made a U-turn and hit her. She died, and they brought her back. Then she died again, and they brought her back again. She ended up paralyzed from the chest down. We talk about her injury, her experience at World's Toughest, and what she is working on these days. Before we start, you can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheWillHicks. You can find me on Instagram as Will Hicks. And you can subscribe to email updates from the show by texting the word tough to the number 22828. That's the word tough to the number 22828. You can also subscribe via email. Check the show notes for the podcast in your podcast player to see how to do that. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts through the Purple Podcast app. Tons of Tough Mudder news this week. Let me hit you with some bullet points now before we get into it. 1, all courses this year will be based on a 5-mile course. Tough Mudder full participants will run 2 laps. That is a true story. 2, the venue for Toughest Mudder was changed less than 2 weeks before the race. 3, the competitive series has been tweaked for 2017. And 4, Tough Mudder announced their 2018 pro team. If we don't get to the pro team today, we will talk about them in our next episode. But first, I need to let you know about something. We had a delay this week due to an illness. I have come down with Olympic fever, baby. I used to say my favorite thing about the Winter Olympics was that they reminded me of the real Olympics. But forget that. Does the Summer Olympics have curling? Does the Summer Olympics have skiers who have absolutely no right to be there? Does the Summer Olympics have a shirtless guy from Tonga all oiled up and dripping testosterone? Actually, yeah, they do. He was there first. But that's okay. He's here now. Have you guys seen curling? I'm kind of obsessed with curling right now. In fact, let me tell you about my new podcast.
Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
First of all, curling is great. Curling is not boring. You're boring around it. Second of all, if curling is in the Olympics, there is no reason the OCR powers that be can't get obstacle course racing in the Olympics. I got more on that in a minute. Let's talk some Tough Mudder news. The first thing is the biggest change Tough Mudder has made since I don't even know. Tough Mudder is changing and adding new things all the time. Last year, they added all of the competitive series races. The year before that, they added Tough Mudder Half. But the one thing that has always been almost completely untouched is the bread and butter 10-mile Tough Mudder course. They made a few tweaks here and there. They already announced electroshock therapy won't be the finisher obstacle anymore. It'll be a regular obstacle on the course. And happy ending will be the finisher obstacle for all Tough Mudder Full, Tough Mudder Half, and Tough Mudder 5K runners, all at the same time. That's a pretty big change. The colored headbands, that was a big change when it happened. It used to be you only got an orange headband. Every time you ran a Tough Mudder, you got an orange headband. The colored headbands leading up to the 10X and 25X, 50X, that was a big change when it happened. But calling it Tough Mudder Full instead of just Tough Mudder, that was, a tweak. They had to do that because Tough Mudder Half became a thing, and so you had to differentiate between the half, the 5-mile, and 10-mile course. And 10-mile, they used to say Tough Mudder was a 10 to 12-mile course. Last year, or recently, the last year or two, they've started saying it's a 10-mile course because if the half is 5 miles, then the full has to be 10 miles. They at least advertise it as 10 miles. I'm pretty sure they would just mark out the course and then space out the 10-mile marker signs evenly. Yep, that's 10 miles. Sign said so, right? Well, that won't be a problem anymore. Tough Mudder announced this week that beginning at Tough Mudder LA on March 3rd and 4th, all Tough Mudder Full participants will run 2 laps of a 5-mile course. Tough Mudder Half runners will run 1 lap, and Tough Mudder 5K folks will run 3.1 miles of the 5-mile loop. As you would expect, the community online is handling the news completely responsibly and not freaking out at all. No, they are not. Hundreds of comments across multiple boards, people threatening to get a refund on their season pass, which, good luck, friend. Nathan Herron said, when was the last time you ran this terrain for the second time? A lot of people are legitimately angry about it. Like, I'm going to start running Spartans angry. The main concern or complaint is about congestion and bottlenecking and crowds at the obstacles. And they're probably right, but we won't know anything for sure until after LA. Some people are taking the more rational, let's wait and see approach, but there weren't very many people saying this is a great idea. Mike Wacker was happy about getting to do Block Ness Monster twice, but there's no reason you couldn't do it twice before, or 10 times before if you wanted to. Andrew Dahlquist had a good point that fitness has been an exclusive club for a long time, and companies who are making fitness accessible and incorporating community and togetherness like Tough Mudder and CrossFit are doing good work. And someone had the idea that after your first lap, you could run into Mudder Village, get some food from one of the food trucks, and then jump back on course for your second lap. But I lost that comment. I can't find it again, so I don't know who said that. But if you said that, let me know. willhicks@gmail.com. Tough Mudder has said the 5-mile loop format will be for all courses this year. But if it's a disaster or if they get a ton of complaints, I'm sure there's still room to change. A few years ago, 2015 or 2016, at the start of the year, Tough Mudder announced that they wouldn't be handing out finisher shirts anymore. Holy smokes. The reaction was fierce. Guys were so angry about not getting their t-shirt. Tough Mudder heard the response, and the shirts were back after a month or two. So you might be right. Tough Mudder LA might be a mess with twice as many people at obstacles than normal, but it might be fine. What if Tough Mudder made the obstacles twice as wide? Twice as many lanes for runners, twice as many Berlin walls to go over. If the mud pits were twice as wide, what would you think then? Let me know. willhicks@gmail.com. Freaking out on the internet is not going to change anything except make you feel better. And even that's a lie. You'll still be mad after you write that strongly worded post. You need to calm down. Go watch some curling. In other surprising Tough Mudder news, Team HQ did something else this week that blew my mind. Remember, Toughest Mudder West in Los Angeles is on May 3rd. Literally days away as I record this. I'm going to read the email Tough Mudder sent out. Los Angeles Mudders, an important Los Angeles event update. After careful review, it has been determined that due to permitting regulations, we cannot produce a quality event that meets the operational integrity of our event series, safeguards our mudders, and keeps important environmental standards intact. As a result, we have made the determination to change the venue for America's Toughest Mudder West in Los Angeles on March 3rd to Santa Clarita. Please follow directions carefully. Gives the address. Parking. Address to be announced. Note, a 10-minute shuttle ride will be provided to and from the venue. See you in the mud. TMHQ. Tough Mudder has had venue changes before. Usually it's due to something crazy and something you couldn't predict, like once-in-a-generation wildfires in Northern California or something similar. The reason they gave for the venue change was permitting regulations. That has got to be related to running the event overnight. The previously announced venue for LA was already a new venue. They moved it from a motocross track in San Bernardino that they've used for 4 or 5 years. So after using San Bernardino for a long time, they moved to a new venue this year. And then before they even held a single race or a single event at that venue, and less than 2 weeks before that event, they moved it to a new venue. So what does permitting regulations mean exactly? I don't know. But here's what I do know. Someone at Team HQ is having a very bad week. Someone somewhere made a huge mistake, and Team HQ is paying a lot more money than they should to have 2 venues booked for the same weekend. There's another big part of that email that I think went underappreciated in the community groups online. It's at the very end. Note, a 10-minute shuttle will be provided to and from the venue. First of all, there's no such thing as a 10-minute shuttle to and from any venue. If the shuttle isn't already at the venue, like taking you from one end of the parking lot to the other end of the parking lot, it's going to take you at least 20 minutes. Probably more like 30, especially for a Toughest Mudder. Shuttles aren't a new thing for Tough Mudder. Last year at Tough Mudder Whistler, the regular Tough Mudder, not the toughest, the Tough Mudder, had a shuttle on Saturday morning. You had to take about a 30-minute shuttle ride to get to the venue. That night, Saturday night at Toughest Mudder Whistler, you could park on site. The reason that matters is people bring way more gear to Toughest Mudder than you'd think. Like wagons full, multiple trips to their car. Guys, this is not World's Toughest Mudder. You need your headlamp, your wetsuit, your bleg mitts, a hood or a neoprene hat, and some basic nutrition. And a flasher or a Siloom stick, a glow stick. That's not a complete gear list. Don't be mad at me if you bring those things and you're not prepared for the race. Check your gear list. You're an adult. You've got this. You aren't going to spend much, if any, time in the pit. You only have 8 hours to get 25 or 30 miles. I know you think you'll need the full 36-pack of water, but I promise you won't. Those shuttles are going to be a cluster. Get there early and don't bring everything you own. It's not just Toughest Mudder. The regular Tough Mudder, Tough Mudder Half, and Tougher Mudder will be at the new venue also. We'll have more on Toughest Mudder next week. So 5-mile laps, toughest venue change, and the last big piece of news today is a bit of rebranding, but it's not as cheesy as that sounds.
Introducing the 2018 Global Tough Mudder Race Series. 3 World Championships, Tough Mudder X, Tougher Mudder, and Toughest Mudder. To find who is the fittest, fastest, and toughest on the planet. $500,000 in cash prizes. Tough Mudder X Championship, the toughest mile on the planet and the ultimate test of fitness. Tougher Mudder Championship, a timed 10-mile race with epic obstacles to determine who is the fastest. Toughest Mudder Championship, a series of 8-hour races leading up to World's Toughest Mudder. An insane 24-hour challenge to determine who is the toughest. Find your fittest, fastest, toughest.
The fittest, fastest, toughest tagline is new, but the races are all in their second year, except for World's Toughest, of course. Tougher, Toughest, and TMX, or Tough Mudder 10, as my friend Josh Cox calls it, all debuted in 2017. Last year, Tough Mudder divided the events in half, the Challenge Series and the Competitive Series. Challenge was the 5K, the half, and the full. Competitive was Tougher, Toughest, and World's Toughest. And TMX was kind of out there as its own thing. This year, they still have the Challenge Series. It's not a race, but a challenge. But the other half, the Competitive Series, has had the TMX added to it and divided into those 3 championship series. Fittest, fastest, toughest. Fittest is the 3-race TMX Championship Series. Fastest is the 5-race Tougher Championship Series. And toughest is the 9-race Toughest Mudder Series, including World's Toughest Mudder. I love this concept, and let me tell you why. If I asked you who is the best female obstacle course racer in Tough Mudder today, what would you say? Maybe you'd say Rhea Coble. She won World's Toughest Mudder with a dominant performance in 2017. Except Nicole Miracle beat her at Tougher Mudder, a 10-mile race, twice. Well, okay, Nicole Miracle then. She is a runner. That's right, she is a runner. She would not stand a chance at TMX, the 1-mile race, against Corinna Coffin, who won TMX last year. Corinna Coffin then. Corinna is built for hardcore obstacles and functional fitness movements. If she tried something that involved a lot of running, like 24 hours worth of running, she'd have no shot. That's not what she trains for. So that is why I really like the 3-race series and the way they've framed it. Fittest, fastest, and toughest. Corinna, Nicole, and Rhea are the 3 defending champs of those 3-race series. Fittest is TMX, fastest is Tougher Mudder, toughest is Toughest Mudder, and World's Toughest Mudder. Those 3 women are all amazing athletes in totally unique ways. On the men's side, in case you're curious, Ryan Atkins is the men's champion for World's Toughest Mudder, for the Toughest Mudder series, and Hunter McIntyre is the champion of TMX and Tougher Mudder. Like I said in the open, I have been watching a lot of Winter Olympics. Do you know how many different types of skiing are in the Olympics? Take a guess. 10? 20 maybe? How many types of skiing are in the Olympics? Say a number. Say it. How many different categories do you think? I'm not making this up. 51. 11 types of alpine skiing, 10 types of freestyle, 12 types of cross-country skiing, 11 types of biathlon, 4 types of ski jumping, and 3 types of Nordic combined. Do you know what Nordic combined is? You know what cross-country skiing is, right? And you know what ski jumping is, right? It's both of those things combined. Nordic combined. It's crazy. Anyway, if skiing can have 51 different categories of races, OCR can have 3 different ones. Fittest, fastest, toughest. It's more of a mental shift than anything, but I like it. Last thing, before we get to some reviews, we will talk about the Tough Mudder Pro team in our next episode. Do you remember a few weeks ago when I got in trouble for my pronunciation of international cities? I was talking about Toughest Mudder Australia, and I said it would be held near Brisbane. I got a few messages the next day. It's pronounced Brisbane. Okay. My apologies. Next episode, I explain. My bad, guys. It's pronounced Brisbane. More messages. Still wrong. It's Brisbane. Say it like there are no vowels in it. Brisbane. I finally decided I'm going to pronounce it Brisbane. So last episode, I was talking about all the places in the world you could run the Tough Mudder 5K. We talked about America and Canada, and we talked about Germany, and we talked about the venues in the UK. In the UK, you can run Tough Mudder 5K at Stratford, Bristol, Manchester, and one other place.
Hi, Will. This is Stu the First. I'm just sending this message because I've listened to the Ian Panther interview. I saw you read out my review, which is nice. I've since signed up for Tough Mudder 5K, which is the nearest Tough Mudder to me, because I live near Edinburgh. I heard you pronounced it slightly differently. So it is said Edinburgh, after you got corrected with some of your Australian cities in previous episodes. And I would also like to send you something for your soundboard. 5-star!
I knew I was going to get one wrong. Thank you, Stu, for sending that along. He emailed me that audio file, willhicks@gmail.com, if you need it. But Stu,
Edinburgh.
There is no way I can pronounce that. You realize you've been saying that all your life, and you're dropping it on me cold. Edinburgh.
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 I mean, no disrespect. I just can't speak the Queen's English. How great was his 5 stars?
5-star!
So we've got me.
5 stars.
We've got women's world champion Rhea Coble.
5 stars.
We've got Matt B. Davis.
5 stars.
We've got Mike Stefano.
5 stars.
And we've got Stu.
5-star!
I'm forgetting someone. Rochelle Swanson.
5 stars. We're good.
Send me your 5 stars. willhicks@gmail.com. Just record it in the voice memo app on your iPhone. It doesn't have to be fancy. Record it and then send it to me, willhicks@gmail.com. Thanks again to Stu for the heads up on my
Edinburgh
pronunciation. I regret the error. But seriously, thanks for the corrections. I have no problem getting right information if I'm wrong. There's a rule on the internet that the best way to get correct information isn't by asking a question, it's by giving incorrect information. That rule is called Occam's razor. Before we talk with Jesi Stracham, let's read some reviews. These come from Podbean. Podbean is an app some people use to listen to podcasts. Just a heads up, Podbean does not use a stars rating system. Our first review comes from Dana Cohen. Dana writes, "Fun to listen to. Thumbs up. That was fun to listen to. You are pretty funny. Your interview with my brother Eric was cool. This was the first episode I listened to, and it made me not only want to start doing Tough Mudders, but also to keep listening. If I ever go an episode without laughing, I will stop listening." Thank you, Dana. Your brother is Eric the Message. If you ever go an episode without laughing, you will stop listening? That's like a threat, Dana. Anyway, Eric, her brother, is putting on a local OCR race in the Wisconsin-Minnesota area called the W. Hicks Obstacle Race Challenge in May. 13 miles, 30 obstacles, $30. I don't have anything to do with it other than my name on the shirt, but I am flattered. For more information on that race, send an email to sales@northwesterncoffeemills.com. Anyway, Dana, thank you for those kind words. I can't promise you'll laugh every episode, though. Sometimes funny stuff just happens. I'll bounce ideas off my kids. Sometimes there's something I think is hilarious, but they just roll their eyes, and then I know it's hilarious. Last review comes from Love the Rays. Love the Rays writes, "Great interview. Thumbs up. Great interview. Very motivating for someone new to the sport." Thank you, Love the Rays. I appreciate that. I've gotten similar comments from people about the show. We started it for the community. Well, really for me, but also for the World's Toughest community. The men and women running World's Toughest every year and showing up to Tough Mudders with their bib on and supporting the mission of Tough Mudder. But we've got far more listeners now than just people who have run World's Toughest. We've got people signed up for Atlanta for their first time. We've got people doing their first Toughest Mudder this year and shooting for Worlds in 2019 maybe. All the way to people like Love the Rays who are totally new to the sport. Also, my mom listens, but I don't think she's running a Tough Mudder anytime soon. She might do a 5K. Anyway, I think it is awesome that those people who might not be on the inside yet get a chance to eavesdrop on our conversations. But come on inside, you guys. Everyone's friendly. Almost everyone's friendly. Thanks again to Dana Cohen and Love the Rays for leaving a review. You can be a part of the show too by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. Just open the purple podcast app on your iPhone and search for Tough Mudder. We're the first one that pops up. Click our logo and then scroll down to click on Write a Review. And I will read it on a future episode. If you are listening in the U.S., we are very close to having 100 reviews in the U.S. App Store. Help me get there, fellas, ladies. Our guest this week is Jesi Stracham. Jesi is the first person to complete the Tough Mudder Holy Grail in a wheelchair. She has a web series called Wheel With Me, available on YouTube. She is an avid curler with aspirations to go to the 2022 Paralympics in Beijing, China. It's time to talk with Jesi Stracham. Let's go to the phones. Jesi Stracham, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jesi, tell me about your first World's Toughest Mudder.
Oh my gosh, it was brutal, to say the least. At one point, I went into the shock from the cold. They stripped me out of everything, wrapped me in a ton of those emergency blankets, and I just could not get warm. I just laid there for hours shaking. So it was pretty brutal, but I'm excited. I already bought my registration to get my Holy Grail this year. So I'm excited to go out and do it again.
What time during the night was that when you got cold? How long did you last?
Oh, it was early. It was 10 o'clock at night. We didn't go back out till 6. It was devastating.
How many miles did you get last year?
20.
So tell me about, you run with a crew. Tell me about that. The guys that are kind of running with you, helping you through obstacles.
It is one of the most difficult things I have ever experienced, relying on another group of people to get you to the obstacle. Because once I get to an obstacle, I complete it. They just belay me. I'm on belay just in case I slip or something. But to rely on other people to get you through the course, it's so humbling. You're relying on their physical strength, and it's wow, these people are not only having to push their bodies 24 hours, they're pulling a wheelchair. That's so impressive. I cannot say enough about how incredible my team members, all of them, were.
Who were some of those guys that were helping you through?
We had Cliff Cunningham, which Cliff has actually ran some Spartan races back here in Charlotte, one of my first races earlier last year. He ran it with me. Sarah Fox, she's ran everything with me. I mean, she's kind of my team captain. And then, of course, Iraq. I had a blast with him. He's just so much positivity. And, the dancers, having them out there was super rad. It was just such a great group of people. And then along the way, I mean, you had the teamwork of the other mudders helping, us whenever some of the team got tired. So that was pretty awesome. And we actually ended up building another adaptive team from it. So I'm pretty excited about that.
When you said the dancers, it took me a second. I was thinking, who was dancing out there? But you were talking about the CrossFit couple, Jen Dancer and
Sam and Jen.
Tell me about, you mentioned you make it through the obstacles yourself. Tell me about upper body strength. What do you do to train that? What's your exercise look like?
So I'm very, very fortunate to have this organization called Project Momentum Fitness available to me. It's in the Charlotte area. It's actually Mooresville. So I train CrossFit 3 times a week, and then I train on my own the other days, so the other 4 days, because I'm also recovering from my spinal cord injury. So I've regained some movement in my legs, a lot of core strength. So I actually work on that daily as well.
What did you think of the obstacles out there? What were some of the harder ones, or what did you think of them?
Blockness is my favorite always. I skipped the cliff, so going around it the second time when they rerouted all the way around, it was pretty brutal getting in the water. Statue of Liberty, that was pretty brutal in the water too. Just because of how cold it was? Yeah, it was pretty interesting too. It was an interesting obstacle because I went back out at I think it was 6 in the morning, 5:36. I don't know. I didn't have a watch. Wasn't really aware of the time. But when we went back out, I still wasn't fully warm, but I was like, I need to get another lap in. I need to finish. This is crazy. I was so devastated because some people had talked me out of going. When we came into pit, we were in the pit for a while, and I started to get that chill. They're like, oh, we shouldn't go back out. We should wait. And then we just never went back out throughout the night. So I was pretty bummed that we didn't even get 25 miles. It was brutal. The cold was so brutal, and I'm looking forward to being on my home coast this year. Atlanta's only 4 hours south of me, so pretty pumped on that.
You mentioned you got the Holy Grail. You're the only person to get a Holy Grail in a wheelchair.
Yes.
You did the 10-mile Tougher Mudder, 8-hour Toughest Mudder, and 24-hour World's Toughest Mudder. What was that experience like, doing all 3 races?
Emotional. It was very emotional. I actually got my Spartan trifecta as well. So the Holy Grail was the emotional one for the season for me. I mean, just getting there, the highs, the lows. Cliff actually did my toughest with me. Sarah and E did all 3 events with me, so I had them from beginning to end. And we did it together and as a team. I mean, it was, I don't really know how to put it into words. It was a pretty incredible moment for sure.
You get a lot of media attention, like this last year at World's Toughest. There was a camera, not the whole time, but from time to time. What's that like? You're trying to just do your thing, and you have people with cameras and lights following you around.
Well, my goal, I had a huge goal going into Worlds. I really wanted to get 50 miles because I have a nonprofit, and I actually raised money for my nonprofit in World's Toughest Mudder. I raised about $450. So my goal is to build a transitional house for spinal cord injury patients. That's what kind of motivates me and gets me through it. So I want to promote that as much as possible. So go ahead and throw a camera in my face.
Can we talk about life before the injury? You were a motorsports athlete before it happened?
Yeah. So before my injury, I had raced ATVs in a series called GNCC. It's an off-road woods racing series. And then I switched to dirt bikes briefly before I got injured. I was hurt on a motorcycle. A woman made a U-turn into it, and I flew over her SUV. I was on the back, and I broke my back in 2 places. My ribs punctured my lungs and nicked my spinal cord, and I coded twice and was resuscitated. So in reality, I'm super lucky to be alive. But I also, after I got hurt and got out of the hospital, Polaris gave me an awesome opportunity that I competed in my last season last year, and I got to go back to GNCC racing in a single seat side-by-side called an ACE. So I got to continue racing after my injury as well.
So last year you did your Spartan trifecta, your Tough Mudder Holy Grail, and you were racing professionally?
Yeah, and I raced the GNCC series in a single seat side-by-side for Polaris, correct.
What's that like, going back to the sport, your first sport?
Honestly, it's not the same. I miss being on an ATV, and I think that's shown in my performance. And so it just didn't work out for me. unfortunately, because I really wanted to go. My ultimate goal was to get us to the Baja 1000, because that, that's the pinnacle of any off-road racer's career.
Do people come up to you and say, hey, I saw you, on Tough Mudder, and, if you can do it in a wheelchair, I feel like I can do it, on two legs?
The people, so I've had it, and some people, they're like, I don't know how you did that. I couldn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you could. You have two working legs. Like, come on. Just come out. It's teamwork. Let's go. Come out with us. We go a slower pace. I always recommend, for beginners to come out with us, because it's definitely going out with an adaptive athlete is a completely different experience. It's really rewarding, 100%. Like, I'm really excited. One of the ones I get to go to this year is Whistler, Canada. And I have a really good friend up there who's a paraplegic, and I got it all set up that she's going to get to go out and do her first Tough Mudder. So, and I'm going to get to be there for it. I'm really pumped on that.
Whistler's a great course. It's beautiful.
Oh, I'm so excited. I've never been to Canada, so to get out of the country and go do one of my favorite things, I'm so beyond blessed.
You mentioned that you have some, like, you were paralyzed, but you have some leg movement or some, what did you say a minute ago or earlier?
Yeah, so I can crawl. And I'm not supposed to walk again. Like, I'm not supposed to get movement or anything. And I started getting some recovery unexpectedly last year around the time I started OCRs. So every time I would complete one, I would have more sensation or more movement. And I'm like, wow, I think this is helping my recovery. So it kind of turned into an addiction for me as well. Because I believe that fitness is the reason that I'm recovering 100%.
What do your doctors think about that?
I gotta tell you, my primary care doctor, he's always excited. I recently hurt my ankle and I felt the pain of it. And he's like, I think you're my only patient. I get excited when they're in pain. So
I know you're in a wheelchair, but I've seen you on Instagram doing those leg exercises or mobility exercises maybe. How do you...
Daily.
Tell me about that.
Every day I just get down on my mat and I do these little squat things where I get on my knees and I kind of squat down to my calves and then I push back up. I work on pulling myself up and just kneeling. It's called tall kneeling. I do my kickbacks and I put weights on my ankles when I do it sometimes, just depending on how sore my legs are. I use an electric stimulation suit, which is wearable therapy. And I stretch daily. I try to do yoga. And I do a ton of core exercises. I eat as healthy as I can. I'm just trying to live the best life possible while recovering. Because I stay in consistent pain, but, it's a blessing. I never thought I was going to feel anything from about my nipples down was where I started when I initially got paralyzed. So I never thought I would feel or move anything from below that. And now I am. Like, I've got to experience this journey, make all these incredible friends and meet all these amazing people and get to recover back from it. Like, how blessed am I? That's just unbelievable.
And you're living like your life, like we're talking right now, you're on a road trip to Florida.
Yeah, so I lost my job back in January. And so I was coming to visit a wheel friend anyways before my year kind of got started. We're going to go to the Supercross race this weekend. And I was dropping some stuff off there and it just all worked out to do a road trip and be productive with it.
I saw a quote you said online. I really just want to show people there's life to be had in the wheelchair. There's life to be had with wheels as legs. What were you thinking about when you said that? People think that we're limited and we're disabled, and it's not even close to accurate. I mean, before my injury, I was more disabled when I was able-bodied than I was considered disabled. My outlook on life, I'm in the best, not only physical, but mental shape
of my life right now at this moment. And it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just, you're so enabled with the wheelchair. It's just all your perspective. That's what it comes down to.
Can you talk about that, being more enabled now than before? Like, there's people that, they go to work, they go home, they watch TV, they go to bed, the next day they do the same thing, and then, talk about that. Like, what's the difference in your life, I guess? Or how have you made that mental switch?
My injury taught me what matters and what doesn't. At the end of the day, we get angry and upset over things that we don't remember a week from now, 2 weeks from now. And it's like, what was the point in causing that argument? Why did we do that? And it just doesn't make sense. Like, that's the biggest thing it gave to me, is to watch what I care about and what I get upset about and what I really give my cares to, I guess, if that makes sense.
You mentioned you coded twice. Basically, you died, and they brought you back. How does that...
Yeah, I got to meet the nurse that was in the room and resuscitated me.
What was that like?
Meeting the nurse was emotional. I mean, she's like, you're nothing short than a miracle. She really didn't think I was going to make it when I left. And I'm like, oh, here I am, like, living my life to the absolute fullest. And then, I didn't know that I had coded or anything. My mom said to my dad, I had told her that I saw my grandmother, and that she told me it wasn't my time, and that I couldn't stay with her and she couldn't come with me, but I had things to do and people to get back to. And I guess I told my mom this. My mom told my dad, John, she died. And my dad's like, Jackie, you're just nuts. Like, tell my mom she's crazy. And my dad got my medical records for my supplement insurance later on, and he's reading over it, and it was in there that I coded and was resuscitated. So I'm grateful every day.
That's some heavy... Do you remember seeing your grandmother?
Vividly, yeah. She looked like a taller, skinnier version of my mom, which is accurate. So it's pretty powerful. I mean, I don't have words. Like, I don't know how to put it all into words, because it's been a roller coaster.
How does something like that, I don't know if near-death experience or a post, like, seeing beyond the veil, how does that affect your life, on this earth?
It gave me what really matters in life, and I kind of switched up what I care about. I mean, I go to church every Sunday that I'm home, and when I'm not home, I try to view the live viewing on YouTube. My family, I spend as much time with them as possible, because, I don't know how long I have with them, and I'm grateful for it. I never hold back how I'm feeling. I'm very honest, and I don't sugarcoat things, and I don't hide the truth. If I'm feeling a certain way, I'm going to tell you, because it's just, life is too short. It really is. I mean, you don't know. It could change at any single moment.
You mentioned you've already signed up for your Holy Grail for 2018. What do you?
I could have beat out on that price.
You got a deal?
Yeah, when they first released it, it was like a super good deal. It was like $450 or something for all 3 events.
So you're going to run Tougher Mudder in Whistler, World's Toughest in Atlanta. What are your toughest mudder plans?
Boston.
That's exciting. Have you been to Boston before?
Yeah, so I actually, my first year when I was injured, I got to go to the Boston Marathon, which was a super cool experience. And then I actually camped on the Cape last summer, and I'm actually going to do it again this summer, probably, for curling.
I want to talk about curling in a minute. But before that, World's Toughest is in Atlanta. It's a much muddier venue than Vegas. How will it affect you in the wheelchair?
The thick mud is pretty brutal. I actually did my first Tough Mudder half there last May. So I'm looking forward to it again. I mean, the East Coast, it's especially 4 hours south of my home. Atlanta's going to be my jam, so I'm hoping to go out and, you know, at least reach 25 miles and work towards that goal of 50, and I'm just hoping to push my body past its limits again.
All right, you mentioned curling. As we're talking right now, the Winter Olympics are going on. Tell me about your curling training.
So I actually try to get on the ice at least 3 times a week. Fitness is huge with that. I mean, it takes a lot of endurance to stay on the ice for sometimes 2 hours, depending on how long a game goes. It's so much fun. It's so technical. So in a wheelchair, you actually have to push the stone to the other end without sweepers, because it's, you know, dangerous to have a sweeper in a wheelchair trying to go down the ice really fast. So we don't use sweepers in wheelchairs, so you have to be precise on how much weight you throw with the stone, where you shoot the stone to. I mean, all of it, and I love it. It's my favorite adaptive sport that I've ever tried, 100%.
And you're actually training to qualify for the Paralympics, is that right?
So I'm submitting my scores to be chosen for the pre-trial camps, and hopefully I get chosen. I've been working really hard. I'm going up to New York in a couple weeks to go with another Paralympic athlete. I'm going to practice my scores with him and everything and get them submitted.
So is this for this year, like Pyongyang?
No, not the one that's going on right now. No, they already have that team. This is for 2022 games.
Okay.
So my biggest fear is that I'll be walking by then, which is an awesome outcome. Like, that's the only thing that kind of sucks about it. Is I've trained so hard, but I can either go to the Paralympics, which would be awesome, or I could walk again, which would be equally as awesome.
Right. That's
Like, my life, I have problems, but they're just really good problems. And that is the key to a happy life. Just, you want really good problems.
Have you been watching the curling on TV last week?
Oh, yeah. So our curling club did a viewing party, and I actually volunteered as one of the welcoming people there. Because, you know, it's always good to give back to a club that supports you and your goals. So we try to volunteer as much as possible.
What do you think about the U.S. performance so far, men's and women's?
You know, I got to cheer for Canada. I'm not going to lie, because we watch Canadian TV in the club and everything, so I've been cheering for them.
So I'm kind of addicted to curling. Like, my wife is like, this is ridiculous, because I'm watching.
You've got to try it. It's so much fun. Oh my gosh. And the best thing about it, it's a drinking sport. I don't drink personally, but it's a drinking sport. Every curling club has a bar in it, and the team that beats you, so say you're the losing team, the other team typically buys you a round of drinks. Winning. It's a gentleman's sport. You shake before you go out on the ice, and you shake after you're done. I mean, it's just I love it. It's a very polite sport. And again, it's technical. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of practice. You have to be precise. It's just my favorite. I could go on forever about curling, and people just are like, I have my web series and my curling webisodes. People just skip through the curling parts of it. They hate it, and I'm like, that's the best part.
What's all the shouting about? Do you guys do the shouting also?
That's for sweepers. We do shout sometimes when we're like, come on, like when we're really into it and we want the stone to go a certain way.
Right.
And you're like, come on, curl, and it won't. But obviously, like, it's yelling at it's not going to do anything.
What would you say to someone who had an active life and then had a life-altering injury? Maybe they think their life is over, so what's the point?
So that's, you do. When you're in the hospital, the doctors really make you feel like your life is over. That's the biggest reason I want to build a transitional house, to show these people that, hey, the world's not set up for a wheelchair user, but there's no reason that you can't go out and live the life that you want to live. I mean, I completely recreated and reinvented myself after I was injured. I got injured and I kind of was lost for a little bit there, and I'm like, who am I? What do I want to do? Wow, what do I have to live for now? And now that I've kind of embraced it, and I'm like, look at all the opportunity that it has brought me. Look at everything that it has to offer. You know, when you take that side of the injury, yeah, there's bad parts of it, but everybody has, excuse my language, shit in their life. Like, everybody has it, regardless. So, I mean, it could be, if I was able-bodied, I'd be having something else I was worrying about than peeing myself. My biggest worry is, do I need to change my diaper today? Like, it's not, I don't have any worries. I have nothing to complain about. My life is incredible. I'm incredibly blessed. I have use of my hands. I mean, I'm so lucky. I'm very fortunate.
You mentioned your Wheel With Me show on YouTube. Tell me about that.
So I realized that my YouTube channel could become a platform when I posted a video of me having a meltdown. And it's just a 7-minute meltdown video in a hotel room when I fell out of my wheelchair, and I was just so upset, just pissed off.
You see that wheelchair? Guess what? I fell out of it and I'm on the floor now. Should I just get up and get back in it, right? Why am I being lazy? Why am I sitting on the floor? None of you understand what it takes to get back in that chair?
Because people don't think about the fact that it takes us double the time to do simple things. Like, say I left something in the cup holder of my car and I was in my wheelchair at the driver's door, I would have to get back in my car to get it out of the cup holder because I wouldn't be able to lean forward and reach. Because there's a good chance I wouldn't be able to reach it. Whereas if you were able-bodied, you could just lean in the car and get it. And it's like little things like that, the time adds up, and I'm like, nobody gets all the little inconveniences. That's all paralysis is, the big inconvenience. I was just like going on this rampage, and it got 44,000 views in 6 months, and I was like, wow, I have a platform here. I can share my life, I can share all these adventures, and I can show people that you can use your injury and live life to the absolute fullest. Look at all of this stuff I do. I drove to Vegas for World's Toughest Mudder, drove back across the country all by myself, was on the road for like 6 weeks. I mean, I competed in World's Toughest Mudder, first paraplegic athlete to Holy Grail and finish. I mean, like, there's so much you can do. There's no excuse on why you can't, except for the ones that you make for yourself.
How can people find your YouTube channel?
They can search my name, or it's at Stracham820, which is my handle for everything.
You have a strong Instagram game. How can people find you on social media?
Yeah, at Stracham820 on Instagram. I think it's at Jesi820 on Twitter. And then Facebook's the # Stracham820.
Jesi, do you have any sponsors or anything else you'd like to plug?
Yes. Justified Cultures. So they're my co-founders of the nonprofit. They are a lifestyle clothing company out of Yuma, Arizona. They have incredible clothes. They last for a long time. I have a 30% discount code, and it is Let's Roll 30. Also, High Hemp wraps. They're vegan wraps with CBD infused. So for the CBD, which is the non-THC cannabinoid pain relief, it's all natural. They have a 20% discount code. It's Roll With Us. And that's all.
Jesi Stracham, any last thoughts on World's Toughest Mudder or anything else?
I am so, excited to see everyone out in the mud. I'm ready for the season to start. And, be sure to say hi, give me a follow on social media, and I look forward to seeing you guys.
Special thanks to Jesi Stracham for appearing in this episode. Well done, Jesi. For more information on her foundation, go to wheelwithmefoundation.com. For more information on curling, you can go to my TiVo because it is packed. Thank you for leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. I will read it on a future episode. Will I see you at Toughest Mudder LA? Come up and say hi. All right, folks, go spend time with someone you love.